Welcome, everyone. I'm Jeff Hullinger. I'm the evening anchor here for 11 Alive, WXIA in Atlanta, and you are watching the Atlanta Press Club Loudermilk Young Debate Series. This is the primary election debate for Republican candidates in Congressional District 14, and we are set and ready to go. In order to ensure that everybody is safe here, we are all participating either from our offices or our homes, and the Atlanta Press Club is giving a special thanks to our broadcast partner, Georgia Public Broadcasting, for making all of this possible today to help organize the video debate. So we want to meet the candidates. They are in alphabetical order right now. John Barge has spent his career working in Georgia's public education system and is a past state superintendent of schools. Ben Bullock is a veteran of the U.S. Air Force who spent 10 years in the military. Currently, he is a small business owner. Kevin Cooke, he represents Georgia State House District 18. He also is Associate Athletic Director at Shorter University and is a farmer. Dr. John Cowan, a neurosurgeon in Rome, grew up on a ranch farm in the area. Marjorie Greene owns a commercial construction and renovation company with her husband. She also contributes to the publication Law Enforcement Today. Andy Gunther is a retired airborne ranger with extensive international experience. Bill Hembree is a former state representative for District 67, represented Winston for many years, also opened his own insurance company. Matt Laughridge is a real estate developer. And finally, Clayton Fuller, not here today. Due to his service in the military, his campaign provided the following statement regarding his absence. Clayton Fuller regrets he cannot be with all of you for the debate as he is deployed on active duty serving with the National Guard. As an officer with task force preparing hundreds of nursing and veterans homes to be safe for their residents, he is proud to be on the front lines. Clayton has served the country in the Air Force, the Air National Guard, for over a decade. He has served as an appointee in the Trump administration. He has served in the 14th District as a prosecutor fighting for justice on behalf of the victims of heinous crimes. Clayton asks that everyone watching pray for those who sacrificed they are not safe at home with their loved ones tonight. Also, I want to mention Riley Bunch, who is with us. She will be asking the questions along with yours truly. She is a State House reporter with CNHI News Service. So let's get started. The introductions are all set. We are ready to go. And please note that candidates will have 60 seconds to answer their questions. They will have 30 seconds to respond to rebuttals. And for the full set of rules, please visit the Atlanta Press Club website, atlantapressclub.org. And I want to tell you also that my role here in large part is to keep the train on the track. And I am the official timekeeper and the referee. So I'm going to be watching the clock. I'm going to be watching and listening to you as well. But you are better served by not filibustering the debate. Otherwise, I've got to interrupt you and we'll move on. Certainly, we are going to do that if we have to. I hope not. So to start the debate, each candidate will be asked one question. I'm going to ask the first question to Matt Laughridge, business owner. And Matt, when I look at you and I look at the other candidates here running in this district, all of you are unique in this sense that everybody is pretty much on the same line politically. All of you share, an affinity toward the Second Amendment. You are supporters of President Trump. You are conservative Republicans. How do you stand out? How do you look different from all the others? It is the equivalent of going into a Chevrolet dealership and seeing a lot of Impalas with the same sorts of equipment on them. How do you stand out to the buyer that you are the one they should take home?
Thank you for asking me that question. I want to let you know that we all are very similar, and I think as we like to say in the car business or the sales world, my unique selling proposition is that, I'm really the true businessman in this race. I'm the one that's created jobs all over Northwest Georgia. I'm the one that has built businesses. I'm running for Congress to refuel the working class, revive the economy, and bring North Georgia values to Washington. I want to make sure that we make America great again with manufacturing and stop the reliance on China. And I think with my background, Georgia is going to be able to, the 14th district is going to be able to send a wingman to Trump that's done all those things.
All right, Matt, thank you. Riley, you are up. Here's a question for John Barr.
Mr. Barge, as a former educator and former state superintendent, you said you supported with doing away with the U.S. Department of Education and putting education back in the state's hands. If elected, and if this were the case, how would you support Georgia schools on a federal level, especially those in rural and under-resourced areas?
Thank you, Riley. There are a number of opportunities where we could save money and we could take advantage of things that already exist. For example, the school nutrition lunch program is already run through the Department of Agriculture. There is an extensive amount of money that goes back to the states in the form of Title I dollars. Those could actually go back to the states in block grants for the states to use as they see fit. I think giving states the flexibility to direct those funds in the way that they need them is the way that we need to go, because every state is different. Every state is unique. The needs are different. I think the Government Accountability Office is already in existence, and they can help hold states accountable for making sure they do the things that they're required to do with that money. The same thing would go with special education and IDEA funds that are set aside for the states to use. They could go back to the states in the form of block grants, and the states could direct those as that they see best fit for their state.
All right, John.
The Accountability Office could hold them accountable.
All right. John Barge, thank you. Next question for Bill Hembree. And Bill, if anybody follows politics in these parts, they're familiar with you. You represented Winston from 1992 to 2011 in the State House. And I guess the question for you is almost a statement. I make, on Friday afternoons, a talk with Chuck Todd, who hosts Meet the Press for about 20 minutes. And he was making a point about running for Congress is not a very good job these days because nobody wants it. You see a lot of Republicans around the country that are bailing, that don't want to be a part of it, that you can't have an impact. You find yourself part of a group. Nobody's reaching across the aisle, and you're constantly campaigning. Someone as politically savvy as you, why would you want to get back into the arena, and why would you want to get in for this job?
Thank you, Jeff, for the question. It's the fight to save this country. And I endorsed and supported President Trump 4 years ago because I thought he was the guy who could save America and save this country. But after watching what the Democrats and the Washington establishment tried to do to this president to destroy him, I decided that it was time to get back in the fight. I've been out for 8 years, but now we're fighting to save this country. And I'll fight every day if I can get back into the House of Representatives in Congress to fight for this district and fight for this country, because I believe that the immigration problem is our main concern. We've got to stop illegal immigration. We've got to end birthright citizenship. We've got to build a wall. And we've got to do these things because that saves the country that we all love dearly. And I will do that every day as a congressman for the 14th District.
Marjorie Greene, you're up next. Riley, all yours.
Ms. Greene, in a video you posted on Facebook, you said that the best stimulus for Americans is getting back to work. Governor Kemp, he drew a lot of criticism from his reopening plans, even from the president himself. Do you think that Georgia is on the right track and the appropriate track to reopening?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Riley. As a successful business owner, I believe in Americans working, and the greatest stimulus that we can put forward is to put Americans back to work. You see, no one ever expected this invisible enemy to come to our nation. We have the strongest economy in the world, and we just have the best country. And so I support President Trump and all that he's talking about putting America back to work safely, and I support Governor Kemp and allowing us to open our doors. And you can see the difference in the blue states and the red states with our governors. You see the governors pushing socialist policies on their states with Democrat governors, and you see the Republican governors opening up. And that's why I'm running for Congress, because I believe more than anything, we have to save America and stop socialism, because this is the strongest country in the world. We have to protect our freedoms. And the only way we can do that is by opening our doors and allowing people to get to work so they can support their families.
All right, Marjorie, thank you. Dr. Cowan, a question for you. You are a neurosurgeon in Rome. You find yourself running as a Republican. COVID-19 has gone from being an issue of science, seemingly in the first 5 weeks, and the last 3.5 to 4 weeks has become so heavily politicized, depending on which side of the aisle you stand on, whether you're left or right. your view of this can be radically different. As someone who makes his living in science, as a neurosurgeon, do you find yourself at odds with how many of the Republican governors and many of the Republicans are viewing shelter in place?
Well, thank you, Jeff, for the question. Thank you for hosting this debate. It's good to see everyone. I'm glad everyone's staying safe and healthy. The eternal battle for any physician is to mix the science with practical application. I can tell people never to eat meat again, and it might lower your cholesterol, but who wants to go through life without eating a hamburger? And so anytime we're dealt with a medical quandary like this that is severe and can threaten our national security, we obviously have to take it seriously, but we also have to oppose that with our rights and our freedoms and our economy. And so what we have to do is, as we learn more about the science, we have to reopen our economy and make sure we're preserving our freedoms and meld the two together. And I think the president's done a great job. Governor Kemp has done a great job in walking that fine line between protecting the citizens, but protecting our rights and trying to restore our economy.
Riley, your question for Ben Bullock.
Absolutely. Mr. Bullock, on your website, you list that healthcare to you is a privilege and not a right. After this impact of the COVID-19 outbreak that we've seen in Georgia, what healthcare policy changes would you make in Congress, also considering that you represent a state with a very high uninsured population?
Thank you so much for the question. Yeah, I think the core of this question goes to your fundamental view of healthcare. Is it a right or is it a privilege? To me, it is a total privilege. Our society has been shifting further and further to the left, and more people think that it's a right. And I think that is completely inaccurate, and that's not the way our country was founded, and that's not the way the Constitution is written. So I think that COVID-19 has brought to light a lot of issues in terms of healthcare, and we need to make sure that we are not letting big government Democrats encroach on the rights of individuals and pushing their socialist agenda down our throats. We need to push back against this and not let this become an excuse for authoritarian behavior on the behalf of the left.
All right, Ben Bullock, thank you. Andy Gunther, you are up, a businessman. And my question for you is this. You have just won the election. You are being sworn in. You are on your way to Washington, D.C. as the representative from the 14th District. What's the first thing you do? How do you represent your constituents and truly make a difference right away?
The first thing I would do is make sure that I build the relationships in Congress with the other people to build a consensus. And my biggest issue that I would work on is figuring out a way to eliminate the debt or reduce the debt, not just balance the budget, but to eliminate the debt. That requires big thinking, big ideas, and a strong consensus with other people that have been up there for a long time that haven't had the desire to do that.
All right, Andy Gunther, thank you. Riley, you get the final question in this round. It is for Kevin Cooke.
Mr. Cooke, as a farmer yourself and being in the halls of the State House, you know the severe hits that Georgia farmers have taken after natural disasters, tariff wars, and the COVID-19 outbreak. Do you think that the federal response in regards to both of those things has been sufficient for Georgia farmers?
Well, I think first, let me say that usually when we see the federal government get involved in things as local as farming, they make it more difficult on our farmers. With the rules and regulations that are in place, it has made for so many impediments for our farmers in all of Georgia, but specifically Congressional District 14. One of the first things we need to seriously consider is the Prime Act that Congressman Massey has put forward. He put it forward back in 2019. What that essentially would do would allow this pressure that's currently on our logistics to include our meat processing capabilities to become more local and regional again, and less away from the vertical integration that we've seen when the federal government is involved. So what I would like to see for Georgian farmers is for them to be able to produce their product and to either locally or regionally have that process there, and it takes away a lot of the pressure that we're seeing right now on the state level.
Kevin Cooke, thank you. So that concludes the first portion of the debate. And the candidates will now ask a question to an opponent of their choice. You can pick who you want to talk to and who you want to bounce this off of. And here are the rules. Candidates will have 30 seconds to ask the question. So you can't make a speech. And you get 60 seconds to respond, and then you get 30 seconds on a rebuttal. And I will play the role of a referee here to make sure that everybody is treated with equity. And if you are mentioned by name, you get an opportunity to defend yourself in this forum. So by random selection, here we go. Andy Gunther, you are up right now, and you may ask the first question to any opponent. Pick anyone you want, and you're all set to go. You got 30 seconds to do so.
All right. I'm going to ask Matt this question. And it's kind of a simple question, but what is your opinion, or what are your thoughts on a balanced budget at the federal level?
Thank you for the question, Andy, but I believe 100% we need to balance our budget. We need to reduce bad spending. In our business and businesses across the world and America, red tape and bad regulations create terrible business opportunities. And Democrats are throwing socialism all the way around. And what's happening is that they're funding terrible and bad programs left and right. So we need to, A, balance the budget like we do here in Georgia, and B, we need to cut out some terrible programs that hinder our economic efforts into small businesses.
Andy, would you like to rebut that?
I don't want to rebut that, but I want to expand on that a little bit if I can. The balanced budget, for me, is a step in the right direction, but it's not really going far enough. I think we need to come up with a solution to, and I have a solution, to actually start reducing the debt. The debt should be based on a certain percentage of the GDP. And once the debt comes down to within, say, 15 or 20% of the GDP, we can start looking at other things.
Andy Gunther, thank you. Dr. John Cowan, your turn now to ask a question to one of your opponents. Dealer's choice here. Anyone you like on our board.
Sure. Well, just to follow up on what Andy said, the number one driver of our national debt is health care. And unless we rein in those costs, we're going to get nowhere with our national deficit. But I'm going to ask to Andy, since he's been doing so well. Andy, I've made a big point about the fact that the next representative from the 14th district should live in the district and be from the district. And being one of the other candidates who has lived in the district more than just a couple of years, I just want to get your take on it, if you think that's something that the voters should consider.
Well, thank you, John. I believe that that is very important, especially for those candidates that have picked up their candidacy from another district and moved it to this area, to the 14th. When you vote for them, and if they get elected, that district that they come from will essentially get 2 votes in the House, and that's not right. A candidate from within the district that has worked in the district and volunteered in this district like I have knows what's going on in this district and has a pulse for what the culture and the people. And I believe that I represent the people the best, and I would be available for the people to get feedback and have them hold me accountable for my actions.
Andy Gunther, thank you. Ben Bullock, it's your turn. You get the question, 30-second question, and then whomever you select has 60 seconds to respond.
Sure. As many of you know, I've served this country for 10 years in uniform. Afghanistan has been one of my focus areas for a large chunk of that time. We have some big decisions coming up, and so I wanted to ask John, what do you think we should do going forward? Should we continue the mission, or should we come home?
Thank you, Ben, and thank you for your service. You are a patriot of this country. You've shared stories with me about some of the things you have done, and you are a true patriot, and thank you for that. We absolutely have to bring our troops home. There was a time and a place where we had to be in Afghanistan and put time and treasure into that country to secure, to protect our citizens from the imminent threat that Osama bin Laden and his apparatus faced. But we were there way too long, and we've only lost our treasure. We've spent an inordinate amount of money there. And I think Donald Trump we'll bring all of our troops home, and I think we absolutely should. And thank you again for your service, Ben.
Ben Bullock, in response to that, your rebuttal?
No real rebuttal, but I think that after being there for 19 years, it's time to bring our guys home and women home. It's a fight that is now theirs and not ours anymore, and that needs to be reflected in our national security policy.
John Barge, you are now from the batter's box. We'll make a sporting analogy. You are set and ready to face some pitching. You are the man. Go ahead. It's your question.
All right. Thank you very much. My question is to Marjorie. Marjorie, on November 26th of last year, you were asked in an interview if you were in the 6th Congressional District race through the primary until the election. You answered 100%. The host followed up with, so I'm not going to pick up the newspaper in 4 to 6 weeks and find that you've dropped out too. You answered absolutely not. Look at my signs. The support's there. 10 days later, you addressed the Cobb GOP about your 6th Congressional District run. The same day, a few hours later, you told Paulding County you were running in the 14th District. How can the people of the 14th District trust you? And if a better opportunity comes up for you politically tomorrow, will you abandon the people of the 14th like you did the 6th?
Marjorie,
Well, thank you for the question, John. The people of Northwest Georgia know me because I've been to all 12 counties and I've been in every city. I've campaigned more than any candidate in this race, and I have the support of the people. They know me because I go directly to them because I believe it's people over politicians. I have lived in Georgia my entire life. It's my home. I graduated from UGA, and I've already been working hard on behalf of the people in this district, the state of Georgia, and the entire country. I'm the only candidate in this race that's been to Washington on my own dime and fought back against the radical Democrats who have socialist plans that will destroy our economy and kill our jobs and take away our children's future. So that's why I'm the front runner in this race, because people in Northwest Georgia know exactly who I am, that I am just like them, a proud American woman, and I'm going to fight hard to maintain and keep our freedoms and protect our children's future American dreams.
John, you can respond if you choose.
All right. Yeah, I think you are a proud American, but I also think you're an opportunist, and you're running to I don't think you're running to represent the people of the 14th District. I think you're running to get yourself to Washington. Our district, state, and nation are in very troubled times right now, and we need experienced leaders standing with President Trump to get our economy and nation back on track. What we don't need.
You get to respond to that. Go ahead.
Thank you. You know what? I support President Trump, and I have donated thousands and thousands since before he became president. No one can question my conservative values. That's why I'm endorsed by Congressman Jim Jordan and many other strong conservatives in Congress. They know me, they know the job I'm going to do, and they know how hard I will fight for all Americans, and especially for Northwest Georgia.
All right, Marjorie, stay right there. Now it's your turn. You're up. You can ask anyone you like a question.
Wonderful. I'd like to ask you, John Barge, you know, as a mom of 3 kids that were educated in Georgia public schools, they had to endure the failed hate policies of the Obama and Bill Gates Common Core policies that you implemented while you were Georgia State Superintendent of Schools. And, you know, this is something I can remember our homework sessions and how horrible it was for my kids, how much their teachers hated Common Core, and how much me as a parent and all the other parents I know think Common Core is the worst policy that's been passed. So I'd like to know, since you implemented that on my children and all the children here in Georgia, do you still stand by Common Core?
Well, Marjorie, there's a big difference in the term implement and actually vote for. If you recall, the Common Core was adopted by the previous state school superintendent and the State Board of Education. And if you understand how the education system works, the state superintendent has no authority in and of himself. He has to work with a state board who has to vote and approve his recommendations. So the state board had already adopted the Common Core before I was in office. I had to implement it. That was my job. Did I support the Common Core when I ran? No, I did not. Did I have to implement it once I was elected? Yes, I did. Did my board support going away from it? No, they didn't.
Marjorie, you can respond.
Well, I think if you've really been against Common Core, then you should have worked hard as our state school superintendent to get rid of this failed policy that has been the worst education program and curriculum in our entire state and our country. Thank you.
John, you can respond to that.
Oh, Marjorie, what you don't know, because I don't brag about things that I do, is while I was state superintendent, I refused to indoctrinate the state of Georgia into Common Core standards with science and social studies. It had already been done in English and math before I came in, and I stopped it for science and social studies.
John and Marjorie, thank you. We appreciate it. Kevin Cooke, you're up next. You may ask your question of anyone you so choose.
My question is for Ben Bullock. Ben, having served our military so admirably, as Dr. Cowan mentioned earlier, you are a patriot. I wanted just to hear from your perspective what it was like in this day and age of terror that we find ourselves in, working within the intelligence and that apparatus that you did, and what that was like for you.
Thank you for the question. I appreciate that. It was invigorating, exciting. The missions were very meaningful. Working on missions that you can't really talk about, but you see them in the newspaper the next day. That type of stuff is really exciting. Knowing that there is somebody who's responsible for American deaths and you help to take that guy out, it's meaningful and exciting. And I think now, since you brought it up, I want to just talk about China for a second. We know that China lied about COVID-19. China has never been our friend, and we need to be very, very cautious with our relationship with China going forward. Because while that's not terrorism in the traditional sense that we think of Al-Qaeda, China is not our friend.
Kevin Cooke, would you like to add anything? You have the option here.
Yes, definitely. I agree with you with regard to China. We definitely need to take a very serious look at what has happened and transpired with this COVID-19 issue and crisis. And I'll say this too, as having a stepfather who is a Marine recon and unfortunately disabled due to his service in Vietnam. I think it's very, very important that we continue to look after all of our veterans that are in the VA system and make sure they get the best care available moving forward. And that's going to be very important for the next congressman out of the 14.
Kevin Cooke, thank you. Now let's go to Matt Laughridge. Matt, you have a question for any one of your opponents that you would like.
Yeah, thank you. First, I'd like to take a quick moment and thank Clayton Fuller for his service during this time. So thank you. My question is for Cowan. John, you partnered with China to make children's toys because you told the newspaper that because you couldn't make the toys without China's help. In Georgia alone, though, we can make carpets, cars, and even airplanes. We even converted factories overnight to make masks to stop the Chinese virus. So my question is, when you choose to partner with Chinese communists instead of American workers, did you know about Northwest Georgia's manufacturing abilities?
Sure. Thanks, Matt, for your question. Well, I grew up in Northwest Georgia. Obviously, I know the flooring industry well. I worked at Mohawk one summer, working on the factory line there. So I know firsthand. Look, I'm a proud capitalist. I believe in free but fair trade. I've seen how China manipulates its currency. I've seen how it manipulates trade deals. I've seen how Obama-era red tape has pushed our manufacturing overseas, and the carpet industry and auto industry will vouch for that. I've been tougher on China than anyone on this panel because I've actually engaged them. And I applaud President Trump in renegotiating the trade deal with China. I think we can go even farther. But I think I'm uniquely positioned to help President Trump in China because first, not only did they lie about coronavirus, they started hoarding PPE and not providing it for American citizens when we needed it in our supply chain. So I can work with the president to decide what manufacturing we actually need to do here to protect our national security, what's important, but still promote free trade policy. And I'm the only one on this ballot who can uniquely do that for this country.
Matt Laughridge, you can respond.
Yeah, thank you. Just to be clear, there is some difference between overseas and working with the Chinese communists. We in Georgia can build airplanes and cars, and I don't think it's impossible to build toys here in Georgia. But people are asking you to rebuild the entire U.S. economy, and I think personally we should cut off China, not team up with them, and we need to bring American manufacturing back, and we need Northwest Georgia to lead the way in that and have real American-made businesses.
Dr. Cowan, you can respond to that.
Matt, I couldn't agree with you more. Several of my toys are made here. In fact, I handmade the first set of toys I ever put on the market. And you're a wealthy guy. Your family's a wealthy family. You've done a lot of good for Northwest Georgia. Talk to me offline and let's invest in something and make it happen in Northwest Georgia. I couldn't agree with you more. Nothing more than to make toys in Northwest Georgia fantastic.
Dr. Cowan, thank you. And finally, Bill Hembree, you've been waiting patiently, and now you're the last man up, and you can choose any of your opponents to ask the question.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate you serving us today. My question is for John Cowan. John Cowan, your brother lost a congressional race because he was doing business in Iran. You were manufacturing toys in China and selling them here. What do you and your family have against creating American jobs?
Well, you're getting the talking points from my brother's previous opponent. Actually, what my brother was doing was working for a three-lettered named agency right after 9/11, and there's a four-star general who will vouch for that. So just like Ben Bullock, my brother was actually working with the federal government right after 9/11 in those said countries. And the candidate who was sitting on Homeland Security at the time just ignored that fact that my brother was actually a patriot, putting his life on the line for this country, and was unfairly criticized. So I like you, Bill. I just don't want you to disparage my brother's name and reputation, because that was done in not the nicest way. And my brother's a patriot, just like Ben. He put his life on the line for this country, and the records will vouch for that.
Ben, you can respond.
This is about American jobs, John, and it's about putting America first. This whole campaign is about putting America first. And you're doing business in China. And most importantly, John, you're getting rich off of China.
Dr. Cowan?
Sure. I personally am not getting rich off of China. The toy company is one of about 4 businesses I own. All of the other businesses are based in the United States. I have a Frios franchise that has 40 locations. I partner with them in the United States. I support a manufacturing company here in Northwest Georgia that has 50 employees. And then my primary job is with the healthcare industry, and I support over 5,000 jobs in Floyd County alone with the 3 that I work with. So I think I'm doing my part. Obviously, we can do better. I'd like to see everyone on here do better to create jobs. And as your next congressman, that's going to be my full focus.
All right, Dr. Cowan, that's it. Thanks, we appreciate it. And that concludes our second round. For those just joining us, this is the debate between Republican candidates for Congressional District 14. Riley Bunch will now continue to question the candidates until we run out of time, and I will determine when a rebuttal is appropriate. Candidates may raise their hand if they feel they should get a rebuttal, and we will make a determination as to whether you get to jump in or not. Nothing scientific here. We're just sort of doing this by trying to be as fair as we possibly can. The first question in this round I'm going to take, and it is for Marjorie Greene. Marjorie, until December, you were running in the 6th district, and you pulled out, and now you're running in the 14th. Aside from the issue of your belief in the difference in these congressional districts, the optics of this don't look very good, and certainly deserve some explaining to those who may vote for you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for asking, Jeff. I'm a political outsider. I am not an insider. And as a successful business owner and mom of 3 kids, I believe our country's future is the most important thing. I'm also a very conservative Republican and a strong Christian woman. And that's why I'm excited to be
It's not the question. The question is, why did you decide?
I'm telling you right now.
We understand.
My values line up perfectly.
The 6th to the 14th?
Because my values line up perfectly with the people in Northwest Georgia. Because of my strong Christian faith and how conservative I am, I'm 100% pro-life, 100% pro-gun, and I am the strongest supporter of President Trump and always have been. I've worked hard. I've been to Washington and organized the biggest march to support the building the wall and funding the wall. We shut down Pennsylvania Avenue and marched from the Capitol to the White House. I delivered basically letters to fire Nancy Pelosi to her office with over 182,000 signatures because Nancy Pelosi refused to fund our border wall and refused to protect the borders of this country. And we are a sovereign nation. We should not have thousands of illegal aliens flooding our borders every single day. You know,
all right, Marjorie, that's time. Thank you. Riley, it is your turn to ask a question now.
Mr. Cowan, this one is for you. Across the states, as a result of these stay-at-home orders and social distancing restrictions in the COVID-19 outbreak, we have seen many places do demonstrations. Americans come out and protest these things. Almost had one in Georgia. From a healthcare standpoint, with your background, do you support these demonstrations? Why or why not?
Well, yeah, of course, I support the First Amendment. It is the First Amendment for a reason. It is the most important amendment in our Constitution. People have gotten very frustrated with this virus. My children who are homeschooling are dying right now that their dad is cracking the whip on them. And so I feel their frustration. We have to balance this with the medical science that says, look, this is a dangerous virus. We didn't know how deadly it was because China lied. We saw the results in Italy where there's a 10% mortality rate. And then President Trump said, we've got to shut things down. Now, at some point, we can't keep things shut down forever. The cure obviously can be worse than the problem. And so we've reached that point where people know how to social distance, people know how to wear a mask when needed, and people know what to do for basic hygiene to try to prevent the spread. And so I feel people's frustrations, and I think governors need to lead the way, like Brian Kemp, to reopen the economy, allow people to assemble, but give them the best advice how to stay safe. And then
All right, Dr. Cowan, thank you.
Responsibility needs to take over.
All right, a question for Ben Bullock. Ben, you live in Gwinnett County. You don't live in the district. And that has been problematic for candidates around the country who've tried to win in districts where they are not a resident. John Ossoff tried that against Karen Handel in the 6th district when, from some of my friends in politics, who told me that there were those in the Democratic Party that said, look, you got to live there. You're not going to be able to win. And he opted not to move into the district. How do you sell yourself to your congressional district when you yourself live in Gwinnett?
Thank you so much for the question. I do not live in Gwinnett County. I now live in Paulding County. I actually moved into my grandmother's house that's been in our family for 60 years. And it's just been such a special thing to be back here. And this is a great opportunity for me to just highlight, we have over 200 years of family history in this district, specifically Paulding, Haralson, and Polk. And I'm sitting in my family's store right now, which is our campaign headquarters. I'm the 5th generation in my family to use this store for business. And it's just been so heartwarming to see all the family and friends that have come out to support and welcome me home. For me, this is a homecoming in the true sense of the word.
All right, Riley, your question.
Mr. Cooke, this one is for you. Obviously, you have been around the tough and hard climate budget that we are in Georgia right now. We went through the initial round of cuts, and we're looking at some really big cuts again. I'm wondering, what lessons are you going to take from that experience to the federal level if you were elected?
Sure. Well, thank you for that question, because I think it very much highlights the difference between my candidacy and my opponent's candidacy. Having served in the legislature for the past 10 years, I'm uniquely qualified to really hit the ground running. And to your specific question with regard to the budgets, we have obviously a shortfall coming with the COVID-19 issue, where a lot of businesses and individuals, to include my own household, have been affected by that, and my wife's business. So I know it well, but on the state level, and particularly how that relates to the federal level in this particular office of Congressional 14, is we absolutely have to see a balanced budget amendment on the federal level. We've had that in Georgia for decades upon decades. It is a very, very important piece in keeping us within our own means. And year over year, everything we do and spend is within that constitutionally balanced budget amendment process. If we saw that on the federal level, we wouldn't have this incredible debt and deficits that we run year in and year out. And we could really serve the American people and remember that ultimately taxpayer money is just that. It's other people's money.
I have a question for Andy Gunther. Andy, you're a businessman, not politically experienced. While we have seen in this country that voters like outsiders, the truth, the reality is that outsiders don't govern very well. Why would you be different? Why do you believe that you could actually get things done for this congressional district when you don't have any experience at the federal level?
I appreciate that question. I don't buy off on the premise that outsiders can't govern well or aren't prepared to do the right things. We have an outsider that's the president right now, and he's doing good. He's doing great, and he is a businessman like I am. A lot of the solutions to the problems that we have in the federal government are business solutions, basic economics, basic business principles. And with my MBA, and I'm the only one in this race with an MBA, I believe that I'm well prepared to hit the ground running and address those situations very well.
Riley?
Ms. Greene, this one is back to you. You've built your campaign on this slogan of Save America and Stop Socialism. If elected, you are going into probably one of the most partisan Congress we've ever seen. Do you think you have the ability to work across the aisle if needed to get legislation passed?
Well, if needed, but here's the deal. We know who the Democrats are. The Democrats are now the anti-American party. Their policies of the Green New Deal, which would be a takeover of our economy with the energy sector, and then their government takeover of healthcare, which they call the Medicare for All policy, would be the destruction of massive parts of our economy. So you see, I think the problem is the spineless Republicans who won't stand up to the Democrats and constantly give in. So when it comes to policies like that, no, I will not work across the aisle with the Democrats. I'll fight harder than anyone to stop them. And that's why I constantly say it, save America, stop socialism. You can't work with people that aren't pro-American, and I refuse to work with policies like that. But I will work hard for each and every American to protect our freedoms, build this economy going again, support President Trump to put America first, to secure our border, and most of all, protect our Second Amendment rights. Thank you.
Bill Hembree, you've been in government a long time. How do you feel about term limits?
Well, I believe in a citizen legislature, and I've signed the U.S. term limits bill, and I served in the General Assembly, and then I left and went back to the private sector. And I believe that we need to have citizen legislators across the country. I believe the most important thing is that we work to save the country, cut taxes, reduce regulations, and put the people back in control. When I was in the House of Representatives, I introduced House Resolution 130, which was a term limits bill. And I was able to get 49 Republicans to vote for it and 3 Democrats to get this measure through. So I believe in term limits, but I also believe in a citizen legislature. And as a patriot, that's what's most important to me.
Dr. Cowan, on the issue of the pandemic, is there a sense of optimism about where we're going in Georgia? Do you agree with what Governor Kemp has done in terms of opening up a number of businesses before anybody else? Are you a pessimist about where this is going? Are we looking at this pandemic, at least in terms of the economic sad reality of massive unemployment in a world that we never could have imagined, 10 or 12 weeks ago? What's your sense of this?
Well, Jeff, there's no neurosurgeon in the world who's a pessimist, just based on the nature of what we do, the serious things we take care of. You have to go into every surgery, every situation optimistically and try to find solutions. So inherently, I'm a problem solver. Brian Kemp has done a great job reopening the economy. And I think people need to read what he's put out there. He has set out a number of measures to protect fragile people of our population, to make sure that they do stay sheltered in place while others get back out and get this economy going again. I do think until we get a vaccine in place, we are going to have to continue with social distancing, continue with hand washing, and wear masks when in or near other people. And that'll be a new normal for us going forward until we get either better treatments or a vaccine. And I think we're very close. We have a lot of people working on it. Some of the best minds in the country are working on it. And Donald Trump is running has a great team in charge of it. So I'm very hopeful.
Riley?
This one is for you, Mr. Barge. In the past, as former state superintendent, you had some disagreement with some Republican policies that they were trying to push through the legislature. How would you assure voters that you will stick to the campaign values that you are promoting?
Well, that's just, my nature. I stick with, and I'm a fighter. I'd never, if there are specific policies that you would like to address, if you'd like for me to address, I'd be glad to do that.
I'm referring specifically to some policies regarding charter schools.
Okay. My disagreement with that policy was not over charter schools or the policy. My disagreement with that was on the need for another state agency to do the work that two could already do. So my disagreement was purely conservative in its nature, because I'm for smaller government. And that legislation created another state agency with its own multi-million-dollar budget to do what local school districts could already do and to do what the state school board could already do, which is approve charter schools. I actually wrote the first planning grant for Floyd County's College and Career Academy, which is a charter school. I've always supported charter schools. It was the need for bigger government that I did not support, not the policy.
Matt Laughridge, I've only got about a minute left, not much more than that. The pandemic, I hear every Republican here talking about smaller government and getting the debt under control. Man, I'll tell you what, I sit here and read these stories about the unemployment levels and the amount of handouts that are trying to keep small business people alive. It looks like the era of smaller government in the short term is over. Welcome to FDR's America. You agree or disagree with that?
I disagree. I think the American dream is alive and well. I think we're going through a national emergency right now. I think Trump did a very good job of getting in front of it, from shutting down travel to America very quickly from China. My job as someone that's trying to be elected to Congress would be to stop the American socialists from taking advantage of the national emergency with backdoor new green deals and career politicians that just can't get it done. So it's crucial more now than ever that we have a serious business person like myself to go to Washington and restore the Trump job and wage growth and hold China accountable. We're spending trillions to fix this virus. I'm going to sponsor legislation that makes the Chinese Communist government pay for those costs.
All right. Thank you, Matt. We appreciate it. Now, that is all the time we have for the questions. We now get to the closing aspect of this debate. And you need to think about Lincoln at Gettysburg as opposed to Castro on May Day in Havana, okay? You've got 60 seconds for a closing statement. Brevity will certainly reward your message. Dr. Cowan, you get the first closing statements.
Well, 7 years, never mind, I'm sorry. Guys, thank you for your time. It's good to see everybody. I'm glad everybody's doing well. Look, I didn't shop for this district to run in. I'm running here because for me, this is home. I know Northwest Georgia. I'll fight for Northwest Georgia. I'm going to go to Washington and fight for President Trump and his agenda. I think access to quality and affordable health care is currently at risk. It is the #1 driver of our national deficit, and I'm the only candidate right now who's qualified to help President Trump solve this problem. I'm solidly pro-life, pro-gun, pro-Trump, and proud of it. It would be my honor to serve you as your next congressman. So please vote John Cowan, June 9th. God bless you.
All right, Doctor, thank you. Ben Bullock, you are next. Your closing statement, please.
So thank you again to everybody for being here. To the ones watching, I would love to earn your vote. Just a reminder, I've served this country for 10 years in uniform as an Air Force officer and as an intelligence officer. I can bring that experience to bear in Washington, D.C. and help our country make wise decisions in terms of national security. I'm also a small business owner with experience in economic development and finance. I know what it takes to get Georgians back to work and to get our economy booming again. And thirdly, and I think most importantly, I have 200 years of family history in this district, and I think that's important for two reasons. Number one, because I understand the issues that face these communities and I know what to do about them. And number two, I care. And if there's anything to take away from today, it's know that I care about these communities in this district. Thank you so much.
Ben, thank you. Matt Laughridge, time for your closing statement. 60 seconds, please.
Yes, thank you. Everyone in this race is saying that they support President Trump, and of course we do. We don't need any more politicians who just say things. I've built hotels and condos like President Trump. I've grown small businesses like President Trump. I've created jobs like President Trump, and all that right here in Northwest Georgia. Now, if you send me to Washington, I'm going to fight just like President Trump for everyday Georgians against the socialists. Northwest Georgia, we do our things on our own. We don't need big government in our lives. we build things on our own, and we don't need help from China. So if you're sick of seeing made in China on everything, elect me, because in Congress, I want to bring manufacturing back to the good working people in Georgia, and Northwest Georgia has proven that we can do it. So vote Matt Laughridge, and I appreciate you being online with us today.
All right, Matt, thank you. Andy Gunther, it is your turn.
I want to thank everybody for watching this debate and taking that time to do that. I believe that I'm the best all-around qualified candidate for this job. I have over 22 years of military service, lots of international experience, and I have an MBA in management. I'm a serious person who clings to my beliefs and values. When you elect me to serve you, I will uphold my end of the bargain by being true to myself and to you. I will represent you, and I expect you to hold me accountable. The other candidates aren't really talking about that, but I want you to find out more about me, a non-establishment candidate, at www.andygunther.com. Thank you.
All right, Andy, thank you. Kevin Cooke, it is your turn. 60 seconds, please.
I've been married to my beautiful wife, Crystal, for 13 years, and we have two beautiful daughters, Ella and Sadie, and we attend Rooteville Road Baptist Church. For the past 9 years, I've represented District 18 in the State House, and I'll be honest, it's not always been easy. Too often I've seen Republican candidates campaign back home on solid conservative values only to cave to political pressure from the establishment once they got to Atlanta. But the truth is, it's easy to stand up to crazy radical left and their liberal agenda. Any establishment politician can do it. The question is, who do you trust to stand up to big government Republicans behind closed doors in Washington? This election is too important to choose a candidate based on words alone because, frankly, talk's cheap. It's no longer enough to send conservatives to Washington. We need proven, principled conservatives.
Kevin Cooke, thank you. All right, gotcha. Bill Hembree, you are now up with your closing statement, please.
Thank you, Jeff. My name is Bill Hembree, and I've lived in Northwest Georgia for 54 years. I married my high school sweetheart, Beth, and we've been married for 29 years. And we've raised 3 incredible sons. I started a successful small business over 20 years ago, and I served this district in the Georgia House of Representatives. In 2016, I was one of the original lawmakers to support Donald Trump because I knew he would stop illegal immigration. But after watching the Democrats and the Washington establishment try to destroy this president, I made a decision. It was time to run for Congress because we need to save this country and we need to save the future. So that's why I'm running. You can go to my website and learn more about me at hembreeforcongress.com, or you can call me on my cell phone at 678-761-5757. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Marjorie Greene, it is your turn.
Thank you so much. And I just want to say thank you to all of you for running. I'm excited to be the strongest front runner in this race because Northwest Georgians know me. I've spent the past few months knocking on their doors, calling their homes, and telling them my message. I'm a successful business owner and a wife, Christian mom of 3 kids who's going to fight harder than anyone against the radical socialist Democrat plans for this country. And I'm going to work hard to save America and stop socialism. I'm a proud, strong supporter of President Trump. I'm a proud American woman, and I'm going to fight hard to end abortion, protect our Second Amendment rights, finish the wall and secure our borders, fight for our veterans and their care through the VA, and work hard to make it better. I'm also going to work and fight against China because what they've done to our country with this virus is horrendous. We have the strongest economy in the world, and I'm excited to work alongside President Trump and all of Congress to fire up our economic engine and truly bring America back and have the biggest comeback we've ever had and make it greater than before. So thank you so much for your vote. Greene 2020. Greene has an E on the end, Greene 2020. And I'll talk to you soon. I'll see you out on the trail.
All right, Marjorie, thank you. John Barge, you are our final candidate, our final statement of the afternoon. The forum is
all right. Thank you so much, Jeff. Look, every single candidate in this race is pro-Trump. They're pro-Second Amendment. They're pro-life. They're pro-securing the borders because, quite frankly, that's what the people in the district want. But what else do the people in the District 14 want? Well, I can tell you as a 30-plus year resident of Floyd County, They want someone who can relate to them. As the youngest child in a large family that struggled to make ends meet, I started working at 9 years old, so I didn't have to eat free lunch. As a child of an alcoholic father, as a first-generation college graduate, as a foster parent, as a spouse of a 3-time cancer survivor, including stage 4 metastatic breast cancer, I understand, probably more than anyone here, the challenges that life brings. So people are looking for someone to support them and stand for them. And because I know how to fight, I've been there, I can do it for you in Washington. I will fight for our Second Amendment rights. I will fight for the lives of the unborn. I will fight for sealing our borders and enforcing immigration laws. But most importantly, I will stand in Washington guided by the same faith in God that has brought me successfully through every single life challenge I've ever experienced. Please visit our website at johnbarge.com to learn more about our issues. And I would greatly appreciate your vote, either by absentee ballot or on June 9th in the primary. Thank you.
All right, John Barge, thank you. And Riley Bunch, how about a closing statement from you? Would you like one? All right. Riley, thank you for your great questions today. Thanks for being a part of this. Thanks for your reporting that you do from the State House. It is something that illuminates all of us all year round. That concludes our debate. We'd like to remind voters that Election Day is Tuesday, June 9th. Early voting will begin very soon. May 18th is not that far away. I want to thank the candidates for participating in the debate. And again, Riley, thanks again for your great help today.
Thank you.
Thank the Atlanta Press Club of Lori Strauss and Georgia Public Broadcasting for arranging today's debate and all of the help that they have given me today setting up my computer here at WXIA. For more information on the full schedule of primary election debates, please visit the AtlantaPressClub.org. This debate will be archived there and on Georgia Public Broadcasting's website, gpb.org. I'm Jeff Hullinger. Have a great night, everybody.